Hey, thanks for joining me today as we wind down 2024 as I record this intro and we go into today's interview. And I'm so excited. This is going to be a really fun one for you to listen to. It's Pure Prairie Leagues. Try to say that about a zillion times. Pure Prairie League. Say that thousands of times now. Uh, Lead singer, songwriter. He's just amazing. Michael Reilly from that album, or we can just say PPL. I think that's a lot easier. They have a great new album out called Back on Track. Obviously, they are known for Amie, the huge hit single, which everybody needs to talk with him about. And I'm sure he's insanely tired of talking, but he can't really tire of it. It's a beautiful song, beautiful hit. It's an earworm for sure. We go into that, but the new album, you got to get this. It's fantastic. It really, really is. Wouldn't even say it's like, it's not a comeback. They've never went anywhere. They've always been playing. They've done thousands and thousands of shows over the years. They haven't had a new release now in almost 20 years, but this is a wonderful release. Back on track, a great cast of characters in this, as we talk about in this episode. So I hope you really, really enjoy it. December 9th, 2024, here as we speak. The year is winding down. I've just had a really great year talking with so many wonderful artists, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to these as well. People who are a little bit more off the radar. I don't get the big gold stars on here. It would be nice if some would come on here, but not expecting that at all. This is really about championing people who really want to get their work out there, and deservedly so. I listened to this album once through. I'm going to listen to it through again. Great artwork that comes with it. We really talk about that you should really go out and get the LP or the CD, the physical copy. But streaming is not bad either. You could take it with you when you go streaming. And just delightful guy, Michael Reilly. And I'll talk with you on the other side of this. You are in the Central Time Zone this morning?
No, I'm on Eastern time. I'm in the east end of Long Island.
Oh gosh, I'm way off. Well, that's you recorded your latest project over in the Nashville area.
Right, exactly. And that's where most of the band lives. So
Yeah, that's a great community. A lot of people just are always kind of raving about the Nashville community, how it's really supportive. It's not crazy like your LAs or New Yorks or even Chicago.
it's crazy in its own way, but people are just a lot more friendlier because it's the South.
Yeah, yeah, totally different. How long have you been up in New York?
Oh God, since '73.
Oh, okay. Through the whole thing. Yeah.
Well,
Excellent.
almost. I lived in LA for about 25 years also. But I moved back out here in '08 or 2010, somewhere around there.
Okay. So you had that experience just like Billy Joel did. He was out in the West and decided to come back and sing about New York.
Exactly.
So I mean that's quite a difference though. You come from the West and then you long for being back in your culture, back in New York, and it's a huge difference.
Well, I loved LA, but after one house burning down and then everything else, just get the land of fruits and nuts, I just had to go east.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Was it one of those wildfires that got out there?
Yeah. 1979 burned down about 28 houses up on top of Laurel Canyon, and I was on the very top at Blue Jay Way, and yeah, it just swept right through.
Mm, mm. Laurel Canyon is beautiful though, and a lot of art came out of there as well. All the documentaries I've been seeing those. It's just an amazing amount of talent out there.
Yeah, it was quite the scene.
Yeah. Yeah. So it started for you back in the 60s and some of the things that you had gotten into just growing up. And you had some unique experiences with the bands as early as 64. And obviously everybody was like totally wowed by the Beatles coming out. So I'm sure that had to
Of course,
be, yeah.
I had my whole Beatle fan kit, with the Beatle wig and the signed photos and the whole 10 yards, so. And I was right there in front of the TV watching Ed Sullivan.
Yeah, I mean, there was just so many people at that time, and everybody crowded around the same thing. You only had three channels back then, so it's like it was more unified. Millions watching all at once. Now it's completely changed all across the landscape.
It's those were the days. I mean, I just feel lucky and blessed that we grew up during those years. But like
Yeah.
the man says, I'm having a lot less fun in my 70s in the 20s than I did when I was in my 20s in the 70s.
Yeah. How true that is. Yeah. And being in that generation, yeah, saw so much change and so many unique things happen in the way across culture. So you were in Fort Thomas, Kentucky?
Right, right on the Ohio River, across from Cincinnati.
Yeah, beautiful down that way. And basically did you go to Sears to get your first guitar and you were
I
like,
did. I
wow.
did. I bought the Silvertone bass with the amplifier and speaker right there in the case.
Yeah, Dan Electro
Yep,
bass
it
from
was. Yeah.
Sears.
Wish
Yeah.
I had that now.
There was Sears near you or up in Cincinnati.
No, there was one actually in Covington, Kentucky, which is right next to Fort Thomas.
Yeah, I know Covington very well. I grew up in Ohio, grew up in Cleveland. I
Ah,
went, yeah, I went to school over there in Athens. Knew quite a few people from near the Chillicothe area in Waverly, Ohio, where some band members, Pure Prairie League, had come from. So yeah, it's
absolutely. Yeah,
Ohio's yeah, a lot of great talent came out of there. I grew up in Cleveland, a guy named Eric Carmen grew
sure.
up near me. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, I mean, there was a Music Machine and Black Watch. I mean, there were a million groups. The Pretenders,
Yeah.
Joe Walsh and Barnstorm. I mean, just Mark Farner and those guys. I mean, it was a real hotbed for all different kinds of music back in those days.
Yeah, and college radio was just exploding. So, I mean, a lot of that pure Prairie League stuff was really getting very hot on there. I remember even in the 80s when I was at school at Ohio U, everybody wanted to play, and you know this, everybody wanted to play Amie. That was like the huge thing, and just, easy in certain sections, but not so much in others. But yeah, and to get those harmonies right too, which you were a natural at.
But everybody in the college scene in those days, tried their best. A lot of people, let's just say that there was a lot of humping going on to that song. And everybody that had an acoustic guitar learned the three chords.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember being in high school and somebody had done that and they were like so wowed by that. It's that kind of a song that just really can resonate. But so many people do it and so inspirational. One of those earworms that is a huge part of the culture. What are the makings of that? How does a tune like that come together? Just playing around. What's the inspiration to creating such an earworm like that?
Well, it certainly wasn't anything intentional. As Craig Fuller, who wrote the song, will tell you, he said it was basically just an exercise in songwriting. But the idea of just keeping simple chords, simple harmonies, and relatable lyrics. I mean, that's pure Prairie League, and it still is to this day.
Yeah, yeah, and you being such a master of so many instruments, definitely must have really helped along the way getting the band together.
It keeps me busy.
Yeah, yeah, and out of trouble for sure.
Well, I won't go that far, Bob.
Yeah, Mr. Fuller had some issues back then too. It
He
was just
did.
such a different time.
Oh yeah. Well, it's crazy. To lock somebody up was just, beyond belief. But and then when we went out to visit him in Springfield, to take him his guitar and a chessboard and some books, I mean, it's like to see somebody incarcerated
Crazy.
or, for what they believe in. It
Yeah.
just, it boggles the mind. But those were the times, and we lived through them.
Yeah, and it was towards the tail end of the Vietnam Wars, which a lot of people just don't realize in these days with history because it's getting so forgotten. But
Yeah,
it
exactly.
was still pretty serious to be a conscientious objector, and he didn't get that status right away. So since he didn't have that status, that's how he ended up incarcerated, and it's just crazy. And it really, you wouldn't even believe that would even happen today, but we may be going back to that kind of thing.
Oh God, you never know. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, you just take it day by day.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm old.
I know you get to that. It's like I'm glad I'm not way much younger and just I got so many years ahead of me. You know, who knows what could be happening.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
fear for my kids now,
Yeah. How many kids do you have now?
I've got two boys, but they're grown. They're 30 and 35.
Oh,
So they're out of the woods on that one. But I mean, it's just a tough world to grow up in. And God bless them. They're both doing really, really well. So, I must have done something right in my younger days.
that's
Although
good to know.
I have to give most of the credit to their mom. So,
That's very good. Very good. Yeah, it's one less thing to worry about. You know they're off on their own and you could sleep at night.
yep, that's it.
Yeah, in Pure Prairie Lake, it's the harmonies, and I know that's probably come, because it was organic to you. You guys really love the Everly Brothers, who pretty much inspired it all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I knew a guy who crafted mic stands, and he actually grew up in an area where his mother knew the Everly Brothers' mother back
Uh-huh.
where they grew up. It's a small world for sure, but yeah, they definitely inspired so much back in the day.
Well, I mean that between that and the bluegrass music influence, the three-part harmonies in the bluegrass field, it was just a natural thing for us because that's the kind of stuff we were listening to on the radio when we were growing up.
Yeah, yeah, and it can really come to you, but it makes it seem like it's easy, but it seems like so much, to get those layers. I remember the Eagles when I first heard them, I was like, this is just completely fascinating how they're able to be able to get all the harmonies and get all those sections down just so well.
Yeah, well, that's discipline, and I, give them all the credit in the world for being masters at it.
Yeah, yeah. It's just and a wonderful catalog. Going back to some of these classic albums like Bustin' Out, it's just got this really cool cover to it too. Who is behind the cover of something like Bustin' Out?
Well, the first cover for the first album was Norman Rockwell's Saturday Evening Post cover. And we got
Yeah.
permission. Rockwell was a friend of our art director at the time at RCA, and he gave us permission. And so did Saturday Evening Post, although they, of course, got paid for it. Um, I wish we would have known about the term branding back in 1971.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, oh, this is cool. Let's just use this. Yeah,
Well,
it's
it took the focus off the band members, of which there have been, five and a half dozen or four and a half dozen, and over the years, and it gave somebody, it gave the people that listened to the records and saw the albums, a relatability factor, I think.
Yeah, and then like Amie is on that album and but re-released. This happened, a few times in the 70s where something came out and then it was re-released and it really hit. And yeah, you hear about those kind of singles. It's like you probably never even saw that coming. It's like, oh my gosh, they just dug this back out, re-released it, and now it's bigger than it was on its original release.
Well, after three, at that time, we were about in our third year of 250 college shows a year. So, and college radio was really, I think, a lot of responsible for, making that song a hit in 1975. Because after doing all those college shows and cramming Amie down their throats and making sure everybody knew the chords, it all of a sudden RCA, their ears perked up and went, "Wow, college radio is playing the heck out of this thing. We should find out where this band is and re-sign them," which they did.
Yeah. And you took a turn after that release and Craig, who was incarcerated, you basically took over and got some other personnel involved and it took another turn.
Correct. There have been several along the way, it's worked out to our benefit every time. We use friends, we use fans. We always had people in the band that would bring something to the table and add to the music and add to the legacy. And once again, with the new guys that are on this new album, it's they've been with me for 3 years now, and it's their songwriting is great, their singing is great, their playing is killer, and we're doing good shows. So it's just it's after 55 years, I'm thrilled, excited, and very very grateful.
Yeah, it's called Back on Track, your new release. This is the first release in how many years now?
19. We take our time.
Yeah. Hey, and you know what? It really, really shows. I really have to say, I've given this a listen, and I encourage everybody out there, give this thing a listen. It's just fantastic. Such a great amount of texture in this and production. It's really solid release, and you've got a really good list of personnel on this, track by track. Writing the songs for this, that didn't take a full 19 years, obviously. Did how did all these tracks come about as far as lyrics are concerned?
Well, Jeff, the guitar player, and Jared, the bass player, both had a couple of songs, just basically kind of sitting around, and they were never recorded or released. And so, when we decided to do an EP last year in July, I said, why don't we look at some songs and do a full record? And so Jeff brought in a dozen songs, out of which we picked five or six. And Jared brought in two songs that he had written, plus a brand new song, Back on Track, that he had written. And the lyric, if you look at the lyrics and listen to it, it's kind of the story of the new band. And so, it fit, and the idea for the artwork just came, right out of thin air.
Yeah, yeah. You wouldn't really call this so much as a comeback. It's just really, it stands on its own. Back on Track, and how meaningful that is. You certainly are. And the amount of personnel that went into this, it just really shows. You have some really interesting instruments on here as well. Somebody who does the fiddle, named Jennifer Wrinkle. Was that somebody who was that you'd known for a while?
It's our drummer's wife.
Ah,
And she's a
nice.
country star in her own right. She was Reba's right-hand man for 20 years. So, and now
Ah,
now she's a solo country artist. So we asked her to play, of course, and she plays sometimes on the road with us. Um, Jeff Kirk, the saxophone player, actually toured with us back in the 70s when Vince was in the band. So now he's the he's the head of the music department at Belmont University in Nashville. And then we had our friend Matt Britton come in and play steel drums and congas and bongos and percussion, just to round out, some of the sounds.
yeah. And every track just really stands out. Picture Perfect Life, PPL, which also could stand for Pure Prairie. Like it
Good
just
catch, Bob.
was that totally intentional, just happenstance?
Just happened.
Yeah. It's great how those things happen. I love the organ on that. It just really, really moves.
Yeah, Randy's a killer. I mean, he's a great player. And, we didn't have a keyboard player for, geez, Mike O'Connor passed away in '04. And we didn't hire Randy until, I guess, 2009,
Mm,
2014. Yeah, 14. So
excellent.
yeah, I mean, he's a killer. So, he's just the right fit. And once again, he brings such talent to the table that I had to make sure that we get everything that we could to showcase the band on this record.
Yeah, and it shows again on Skipping Stones. Again, that piano, the organs, the harmonies. What's the story behind that track?
Well, Jared wrote that song basically just because we were recording at Riverfront Recorders, which is on the Cumberland River outside of Nashville in Madison. And, he was standing down by the river one day while we were taking a break and just throwing rocks in the river. And here comes Skipping Stones.
It's great how that just like comes out like from everyday life. You got to write what you know, and immediately these days, you could just get out the phone now and just record your thoughts rather than have to carry that notebook around.
Well, we do have a lot of notes and we make a lot of notes, but when inspiration hits, music is a harsh mistress and you need to when she bites on your ear, you need to listen. So
Yeah.
we're very cognizant and aware of the fact that when a good idea hits, that we need to follow up on it and follow through.
Yeah. Now, are you as extensively touring as much as you used to, or how many dates a year would you say you're doing now?
We average 50
That's good. Yeah.
this
That
year.
I
My
think that's
well, you know,
reasonable.
at our age,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
you
Unlike
know,
250 when you
yeah, that'd be a little bit too crazy, especially in these days with all the traveling and everything. But next year ought to be interesting because we're getting a lot of feedback and a lot of traction from Europe, and
Hmm.
PPL has never played Europe, so hopefully there's going to be a European tour this summer in the works. And I mean, stations in Japan and Australia are playing the new record, and it's like, yikes, we
Yeah,
could
who
be a
would know?
spaghetti on the wall here.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's in a place like Japan. I'm like, what?
Well,
But they're fascinated.
Americana and Americana is just a new name for country rock, but Americana and country music are just enjoying a real surge in popularity these days. And I think because I think it's all on the wheel. It's all kind of cyclical. That Pure Prairie League's time may be coming back around again.
Yeah, and it really pays off. You think, oh well, this is not an oldies act anymore. I mean, honestly, having fresh material, and I so appreciate seeing a band that has been in the culture now over 50 years is actually putting out new material and not just relying on the oldies, and it sets it apart. And I you see it in huge acts.
That would be too easy. And
Yeah.
we've had it easy in our entire career, so why start now?
Yeah. And then sure, it's got to be like, of course, you give them the hits. That could be sprinkled in, obviously, but that could also, I mean, if that's all you're doing, I would think that gets pretty old.
Yeah, it sort of turns into blood without plasma. It's I mean, people pay money to come and see you play those hits. But for the last few years we've been digging out songs from the first few albums that never got any recognition. Songs like Angel and Woman, Angel Number Nine, Kentucky
Hmm.
Moonshine, Lucille Crawfield. There's just a bunch of hits on, or a bunch of songs on the PPL records that were never hits, but they were damn good songs.
Yeah, and they can get lost in the shuffle. It's a pretty big catalog, and people don't realize that. Even going back to Firing Up, Can't Hold Back, those kind of things are just like things do get buried in there, and it's fresh again when you bring out an album track, and it's not familiar to the crowd, but it's also new. What's old is new again.
Well, when they hear songs like Modern Problem and Back on Track and Skipping Stones and The Price of Love, they're gonna go, yikes, that sounds like Pure Prairie League, but it sounds completely different also. So I think we hit that nail on the head. And the other songs that, especially a lot of the songs that Jeff wrote are, I won't say typical, but I will say classic country rock songs. The beginning and Picture Perfect Life and Crazy World and songs like that. I mean, it's nice to see that the guys in the band and I were able to tie the threads together from the beginning all the way to this current album and then go further.
Yeah, yeah, you could definitely feel that. The Lucky One is a really nice, fast, kind of love song, very country-ish, but very relatable too. It just really moves.
And it features, that song features Scott, our drummer, on lead vocals, and Jeff and Jared all sing lead as well. So we've got a great band and it hitting on all 12 cylinders, and we're thrilled with what's going on, and we can't wait for this year.
Yeah, and Jennifer with her fiddle really shines on Price of Love. I really just very rollicking. Love those lyrics. From the time the sun comes up, it's just really, really, really captures that.
We once again, we just everything just went the way I wanted it to be as the producer, and the way the band wanted it to be as the players. It all fell into place very easily, and it's I don't know how we're going to top this, but we'll give it a little while and ride this one for a bit.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And you could always get that inspiration on the road as well. So, I mean, does that really hit you when you're out there? I don't know if you're in a bus, plane, train, automobiles, whatever. Does something just hit you right there?
On occasion, but I mean, those are I think a little bit more few and far between because you got to pay attention all the time while you're traveling. But when things hit, they don't get pushed by the wayside. I mean, we wake up in the middle of the night and I've got a notepad next to my bed, so I'll be jotting stuff down and then go back to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, the convenience. You're always working. That's what it is. It's a
That's the
24/7
life of
job.
a musician. That's the way it is when you're a musician, sure.
And when you're traveling, how many guitars and instruments you bringing with you? You bringing the piano, organs, all that stuff?
We have
Is it?
most of the stuff. Most of the stuff is brought in for us. We bring our guitars and our pedal steel guitar and sax and stuff like that. But uh, most of the regular equipment, the bass amp, the guitar amps, the drum set, except for the cymbals and the snare drum. I mean, so it's all and the keyboards. They're all provided.
Hmm.
According to our specifications on our contract. Makes it a lot easier on us. If you're not traveling with a big entourage.
Yeah, yeah, definitely lightens the load for sure. So, what type of venues are you playing? How many seaters?
We're doing everything from 500 seat little theaters, like remodeled theaters and performing arts centers, a lot of those. Um, that's pretty much the bulk of it. We do several outdoor shows during the summertime. And, I think this year we'll probably be doing a few more festivals, but because of the new album out. And we're doing some touring with Ozark Mountain Daredevils. So, that's a fun package, and there'll be some good gigs there. But for the most part, we're just hitting the places that want to hear us and, that will do us some good.
Yeah. There's also mentioned John David Call doing the pedal steel guitar. He's been with you for probably ages
Since the
now.
beginning, he was one of the
Yeah.
founding members. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Now you're talking. Yeah. It's very weird to hear that, like, now over 50 years. Now we're coming up on 60. It's just yeah, that's got to be very interesting to have known somebody so many decades. No,
I'm
the whole
Vincent.
st yeah, the whole story with Vince Gill, how did that all come about? Gosh, and where he's gone in places. It's just
He's done
incredible.
pretty well for himself.
Yeah.
When we were playing in Oklahoma City at the Civic Center in 1977, and Vince was playing in the opening act, a bluegrass band called Mountain Smoke. And we were all standing there watching this band play, and this kid sang and played like a bird. So we asked him if he wanted to come up and jam with us, and he played on 4 or 5 songs with us that night. And I asked him right there on the spot, you want to join the band? He says, "No, man, I'm a bluegrasser." But 2 years later, we were in LA auditioning guitar players, and Vince came along with a friend of his, who didn't quite cut it. But we asked Vince if he wanted to stick around and jam for a while. We played for 4 hours until midnight, and then I asked him again, now you want to join the band?" He said, "Yes, I do."
Got the gig at midnight. Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Wow. Yeah, and yeah, you discovered that talent. Who knows where things would go? I mean, I'm sure he would shine, but like that's how it happened. That's just incredible.
Has been very gracious about acknowledging the fact that we taught him a lot about the music business and about rock and roll and what it's like, outside of an insular kind of a thing like a hometown bluegrass band. And now look at, he's one of the, he's an eagle. So it's, which to me
Unbelievable.
is kind of a natural step for him. But his career arc has just been tremendous, and I'm glad that we were a part of it.
Yeah, he played on my guest who I had on this show, AJ Croce. He played on one of his albums, and just it's a great album too, just like Medicine. And Vince Gill is on that. Just did an amazing job.
He doesn't, I think he could fart the phone book and it
He
would
could.
still be like opera.
I know. Some people are just yeah, they're born with that. It's
That's
just
it.
it's really
I can't be
incredible.
jealous. I'm just in awe.
Yeah, I got so many great contemporaries. And speaking of that, you had some really big names on your 1975 record, Two Lane Highway, and Emmylou Harris, who's just like I was just listening to a track she did live with Elvis Costello.
Uh-huh.
She's just incredible. That must have been fascinating working with Emmylou back in 1975.
Well, the song was basically written with her in mind, and she was gracious enough to come in and sing with us in the studio, and then we asked Chet Atkins if he wouldn't mind playing on a song, and he, of course, he accepted, and we're like, "Yikes, Chet Atkins!" Then we had Don
Yeah.
Felder playing mandolin from the Eagles. We had all kind of guys. Johnny Gimbel, Merle Haggard's fiddle player. We had a lot of guests, Renee Armand and Ronnie Blakely, Hoyt Axton's wife, and
Hmm.
uh, and Ronnie Blakely, who was in that movie Nashville.
Yeah.
So it was just a blast to have friends come in and work with us in the studio, and it just added to the whole feel of the records.
How did it come about getting Don Felder? I just love the Eagles so much. It's just how did he just come about? Was he just was a friend of a friend? Somebody just asked him to come
He
on
was an
in?
old friend. He played in a band millions of years ago called Flow, and they were kind of a jazz fusion band. And the drummer for that band and I were real good friends, and the bass player and the harmonica player, and so they all grew up around the same time in the same area as Tom Petty. So I had known him from
Hmm.
way back when, and I asked him, and of course he was kind enough to say, "Sure, come on in." So.
Yeah, just incredible. I can never forget the guitar in Hotel California. It's just still yeah, soundtrack of our lives and just like when you hear that all the time, which you're a
Another
part of
brilliant
too.
player. We've been lucky to get these gifted people to kind of polish our tarnished halo a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. And again, with your personal on the new album, it really shows you got a great cast of characters on this. You have one cover on here, I've noticed. It's called Love Song. It's Elton John song from Tumbleweed Connection. Uh
Correct.
what is the story on that, including that? It's a beautiful version, as expected, beautiful song. I've seen Elton do that song live.
That song was written by Leslie Duncan, who was a very well-known background singer in England. And when that album came out in '71, Mike Connor, the piano player that used to be with us, and I were living in England, and we were touring with a band called the Lee Riders, and we did a bunch of gigs with Bowie during the Ziggy Stardust
Mm.
tour. And I had heard that Elton John record in '71, and I fell in love with that song. And it was one of the only songs that Elton and Bernie did not write. So, I kind of dug around a bit, and I've always kept that song sort of in my back pocket. And I've always loved the song, and it just haunts me to this day. Olivia Newton-John has done a version. Hart did a version. It's probably been recorded 25 times, but I put the Pure Prairie League spin on it, and I think it came out great.
Yeah, yeah. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I'm sure it gets well received live too, if you're doing that live.
We haven't yet, but we're working it up.
Yeah, yeah. I strongly recommend that. It's when Elton did that, I was like, wow. I didn't think he'd bring this one out. It was just a real big surprise. I
Pretty
love those
amazing.
surprises.
Pretty amazing. Well, Leslie, I mean, she used to sing with Elton. She sang with the Alan Parsons Project. She sang on all the records, that came out of England in those days. But she had intense stage fright and
Mm,
couldn't couldn't make a go of it as a solo artist. But and she wrote Love Song as the B-side to a movie soundtrack.
mm.
So it was one of the
Amazing.
things that she just blurted it out, and I mean, it's stuck with me for 50 some odd years.
Yeah, yeah. And then another haunting type of a track on there, Modern Problem, has that same kind of effect. It's just very haunting and be just poignant and beautiful.
One of the things I had in mind making this record was this is a record to be listened to on a good set of headphones.
Yeah,
I'm old school. So, I used
love
to
the
have a
headphones.
Macintosh stereo system and Bose speakers. And so if you listen to this
Yeah.
record with a good set of headphones and not just on your iPhone, you're going to get a lot more than you actually bargained for out of some of these songs. So
Oh, that is so true. That is so true. Having the proper equipment, it really is. And you don't have to have very expensive stuff, but to hear it on the headphones and not just on those crummy Droid or iPhone speakers, it's sacrilegious. Like, come on. You need to hear this a little bit better. And the headphones definitely save that. So it's wonderful to hear it in that. I love the sax on A Love Like Yours. It just, yeah, that's alto sax.
it's an alto. Yeah, that was
Alto.
Jeff Kirk that played on that. Sanborn played on several of our records over the years,
Mm,
David Sanborn, and
yeah.
we lost David earlier this year. And I wanted to do something to pay a little bit of tribute to a lost family member. So Jeff was kind enough to come in and throw down some serious sax.
Yeah. Yeah, David Sanborn. Miss him. Yeah, I discovered him when I was in college. He was just good like comfort music. There's something about that sax and it really definitely comes through on this. I really really enjoyed that. And the Lucky One is a really really nice track to follow that up.
The albums, the record sequenced itself almost.
Mhm.
Things just kind of flowed one to the other, and it was very little work for me actually figuring out the sequence for the album because they just all fell into place.
Yeah, they really do. And sequencing, people bang their heads over it sometimes. And yeah, sometimes, and it does. It seems very organic the way these flow one into another. 6 Feet of Snow is another one that's just really obviously inspired by the environment as somebody had come upon.
Yeah, that was a Little Feat song from down on the farm back in the 70s. And when Craig was in the band at different times over the last 50 years, we used to do that song on stage a lot. And I thought, hey, let's do this. So
Yeah.
I just went to see Little Feat a couple of weeks ago out here on Long Island, and I gave
Mhm.
Fred and Billy a thumb drive with our version of 6 Feet of Snow. So they got a boot out of that.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. 6 Feet of Snow is just has that square dance tempo. It just kind of reminds me of that. So hats off to Little Feat.
and,
Definitely.
and Pure Prairie League. I mean, it fits our
Yeah.
fits our style. So so
Yeah.
we loved the song and we decided to do it.
It totally does that. And then closing with that title track, it just like it's very funky. It's got that synth. It's just really what a good groove.
Old school. I give
Yeah.
guilty
Yeah. Yeah.
at power station snare drum, and it's a great funky track. And the lyrics, if you listen closely to the lyrics, I do get a kick out of the what it has to say. And
Yeah.
of
And
course, we've
yeah.
got John Calls Pedal Steel doing the train whistles.
Yeah. Yeah. So the producer, I mean, definitely good production. Now what label are you on now?
We're on Pure Prairie League Records.
Okay. That's
It's
it. Easy enough.
I found that it's just easier than trying to get a major label deal because I think the days of major labels is over.
Yeah, totally.
Except for huge artists. But I mean, everybody from Taylor Swift on down are doing their own records on their own imprint, and I think we just have more control this way. So
Oh, that is for sure. Definitely. I'm sure you've had to deal with the A&R people and stuff like that. I hear stories about that. I'm like, how do you do this? Like you're making it so much of a business and the A&R is telling you how to do your work. That's got to
right.
be a very strange feeling.
Well, everybody has to make a living, but some people have no business telling other people how to do what they do, if you
Yeah.
understand what I mean. But we always got along pretty well with the A&R guys, and they let us, in the horse racing business, you say you have to let them have their head,
Yeah.
let the horse run, and we were pretty lucky with that up until the eighth album for RCA, Can't Hold Back. They decided because it was the time of the big disco scare that we should be competing with Ambrosia and Player, and it's like, well, we did what we could, but you can't take the hill out of the hillbilly.
Yeah, exactly. That's got to be very weird to say you got to compete with Ambrosia in that period of time. That's yeah, totally. just bizarre. So that's nice. I mean, to be this independent now, is got to be just very liberating.
At our age, it's an absolute necessity. I mean,
Yeah.
if we're not smart enough to know what it is that we like and what we want to do, then we shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely. Well, 6 decades. Yeah. This is just it's an amazing run. You guys are hitting the road. That's fantastic. Are you gonna come down here to the South, here in the Atlanta metro area?
Absolutely. I think we're playing the Boot Barn in Gainesville on, I think, March or May,
Of
somewhere around there.
2025 is
Uh-huh.
the
But yeah,
state. Yeah.
we're going to be all over the place, everywhere from Oregon and Canada, California, Florida, all through the East Coast, all through the Midwest, Michigan, Wisconsin, all over the place. So we're going to be out there like a fart in a windstorm, if you know what I mean. We'll be everywhere.
Yeah. And it's a mixture of just getting on the planes, automobiles, trains.
Yep, all that and more, every which way we can do it. I mean, if we have to do sled dogs, we'll do it, but we'll get there.
That's so great. And you keep going at it and you got the ambition and it's what you love and it's not everybody can do it and at a lot of levels. It's very hard.
Well, the thing is that especially after all these years and all the people that have come to see us, and I mean, three generations now of Amies. I mean, we've got people coming to the shows that are named Amie. Their daughter is named Amie, and their granddaughter is named Amie. So, it's that's who we're doing it for. I mean, if we were doing this just for ourselves, I don't think we'd it'll be a totally different ball game. We do this for the people that pay their hard-earned dough to come out and see us play these songs that they grew up with and play them some new stuff and get some new people excited. And that's why we do it. It's all about the fans and the people that support the band.
Yeah. Yeah. Congratulations on a great new album. You've come away a long way since the Mark IV band going way
Ah,
back. Mark IV. Where did that name come from? How'd you come up with Mark IV as your first band?
yeah, it was actually it was Mike Reilly and the Renegades was the first one, but the Mark IV we had a guy named Rick, a guy named Al, and Mike, and so there were four of us, and so it was the MARC4. But it was a high school band, and we were having fun. So
Yeah, yeah. And then joined the Lemon Pipers towards their end. Oxford, Ohio, the home of Miami University. I had a sister who went there.
uh,
Uh, yeah, that was like towards the end of that. How did you, it was just happenstance you ended up with them?
they got offered some gigs on the Dick Clark Caravan of Stars, and Bill Bartlett, the guitar player, had sort of retired or went into seclusion, as it were, and the drummer called me up and a couple of other guys and said, "Hey, look, we've got some gigs on the Caravan of Stars. Let's hit the road." So we did, for about 6 weeks, and we backed up the Shirelles and the Dixie Cups and all those guys. It was a lot of fun. Paul Revere and the Raiders were on that tour, so it was a blast. Those were the days, man.
Yeah, yeah, and really paying your dues. It's not like you went on some talent show, somebody discovered you. Like that doesn't seem to be nearly as organic. Really paying your dues, really getting out there and playing live. And I'm sure you remember your first PPL show, wasn't it at the Erie Canal Festival in
Yeah, it was called the
Illinois?
Bull Island Soda Pop Festival in Bull Island, Illinois. It was, the whole Woodstock lineup and all those, it was 300,000 people and on Labor Day of 72. And it was like, yikes, this is an auspicious start. But it's
Yeah, yeah.
downhill from there. So,
Yeah, it's just it's so fascinating when you're in the world of the arts and how things can just like come up that you never even saw. And it's fascinating looking back on that now, so many years later.
it's it'll all be in the book if I ever get around to that.
Yeah.
That's been a work in progress for 5 decades. So, you never know.
Yeah. It's gonna be a good book when that gets done. I definitely would say, yeah, definitely get that out there. So, so many autobiographies are out there now. So yeah, definitely I would definitely
Yeah,
go out and do that.
I've read a lot of them. I try to stay up on what people have to say, and sometimes, they can be, even the biggest stars can be boring, but then, you get
Hmm.
a book like Keith Richards' book, and it was just brilliant. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can never tell, but, and I don't know that anybody would be all that interested in Pure Prairie League's road stories, but, there's some good times and some good anecdotes, and, we'll see how that spaghetti sticks.
Be great. Well, enjoy your time up there in New York before you head back out on the road and see you throughout 2025 as we record this. And new album, definitely get that. It's just available on all the formats.
Yep, yep, yep. CD Baby and Pure Prairie League Records. It's on our website in the merch store. There's several different, all the streaming outlets, Amazon Music, iTunes, Spotify, all that. So, but it'd be nice for people to buy the actual CD, and we're also going to have vinyl by the end of January. So, with a few other surprises. But streaming is great. I'm just going to say that really quickly.
Oh,
And
sure.
it gets your music out there, and it's these days it's an absolute necessity. But we like the fact that people can pick up the CD, look on the inside, they can pick up the album and pull out the sleeve and read both sides, read the lyrics, read the credits, read the notes. It's that to me is the heart of this business, and I want to make sure that we keep some of that heart in there.
Yeah, and then the artwork that comes with it too, the covers, the front cover and the back cover, nothing like what the LPs were always like. They're just beautiful. It's just like I remember some would come with posters even with some of those stars in the 70s. But yeah,
Sure.
so you have good artwork with this as well.
Bill Brown, the guy that did our artwork on this record, just hit it out of the park. I mean, I gave him the ideas. He came back to me with some preliminary drawings, and then the next thing I know, a couple of weeks later, he's got these beautiful colors on the front. I just said I want to do Back on Track. I want to have Luke on a hand cart going down
Yeah,
the.
yeah,
Well, he nailed it.
yeah. There you go.
It was his idea to do the caboose on the back and the colors and stuff. It just I think it's a beautiful package, and I'm really, not to sound self aggrandizing, but I'm so proud of this record. I can't tell you.
Yeah, and should be. Absolutely not just saying that either. It's just really wonderful and it's just inspiring to see you out there with something new and going out there and traveling. It's all impressive stuff.
Well, I appreciate you having me on to be able to spread the word, Bob.
Absolutely. Your Prairie League coming to a town near you, near me, that would be Gainesville, Georgia, which is a little bit of a drive from where I'm at, but yeah, beautiful place. Very good. Excellent. Take care and best wishes going forward.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Have a good one. Bye-bye. Wow, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. What I haven't really talked about is that today is National Pastry Day. So enjoy as we head towards Christmas 2024 as I record this. And just for the time capsule, we're winding down this year. So enjoy. I hope you enjoyed listening to Michael and talking about the wonderful catalog known as Pure Prairie League, PPL. Check them out and get that album back on track. Available where you get all that wonderful music. Until next time, have a wonderful holiday season if you're not if you're seeing this at the moment. Otherwise, if you haven't, then have a wonderful next holiday season, whatever. Anyway, enjoy and we'll see you soon.